Okay, now look, boys. Let's all eat a good breakfast today. I know you're bound to be nervous, but we have to have plenty of nourishment and energy.
What could be better than unwinding and watching your favorite American family and their adventures together? Well, it's watching a video about them, of course. So here are 20 weird facts about the Brady Bunch. Number 20. Not blonde. Hollywood back in the day was known for endangering the lives of actors and putting them through severe stress for the sake of show aesthetics, and Susan Olsen's case was no exception. Cindy Brady, who was played by Susan Olsen, although naturally blonde, was not the right shade according to the producers. They began regularly dyeing her hair, which caused intense hair loss. It eventually reached a point where the hair on her head was falling out in clumps. They were finally made to stop after Susan tearfully requested Schwartz to let her wear her natural hair. This shows just how merciless Hollywood was back then, even to children. Number 19. Hackman for Brady. Robert Reed was arguably at the peak of his fame when he was cast for the role of Robert Reed. But before he was picked for the role of Mike Brady, there was another close contender who was actually the first choice for Mike, which was only known to the public much later. It was discovered that Gene Hackman, yes, that Gene Hackman, was the first pick to play Mike Brady. But this decision would eventually blow over with the executives, who believed that Hackman did not have a family-friendly face and wanted Robert to take the lead instead. But what's ironic about this entire ordeal is that Hackman was enthusiastic about the role, while Reed despised the role because it wasn't what he was led to believe. Number 18. Get with the program. Now, if you wanted to act on the Brady Bunch, you had to get with the program. And how do you get with this program, you ask? By being blonde, of course. And if you weren't the boldest shade of blonde, you were out of the show. Because of this casting preference, Debbie Storm, who was initially cast as Jan Brady, had to be fired and replaced with Eve Plum to have the three sisters of the show looking alike with golden white hair. Sherwood Schwartz, who was in charge of the casting, did not leave Debbie empty-handed, though. He gave her the chance to star in the Season 2 episode, My Fair Opponent, in which she played Molly Weber, a shy, awkward girl who turned into an absolute beauty. Number 17. Beneath him. Most of us look at the show and can never imagine that the easygoing Mike Brady would constantly clash with the creators of the show. But this was indeed the case with Robert Reed. Reed was a trained classical theater actor and, as such, used to believe that the show and its talent were rather beneath him. Reed, of course, never had a problem with the cast and had a rather warm relationship with all of them. His gripe was with the writers of the show. Where he was promised a deep and contextual character, he was saying goofy one-liners. He constantly clashed with Schwartz and insisted on a change in his dialogues, as it was rather demeaning to make someone of his caliber resort to such silliness. Number 16. Tiger's disappearance. Even if you don't remember anyone from the Brady Bunch, one person that you surely remember is the goodest boy on the entire set, the Brady's dog Tiger. Tiger was the most adorable dog on set and had appeared across several episodes. But many fans began to notice that midway through the second season, Tiger almost completely disappeared and was never even mentioned again. But the reasons behind this were shocking, as Tiger was actually run over by a car and had succumbed to his injuries. The production tried replacing Tiger with a similar dog, but without the training and familiarity, they ended up scrapping Tiger from the show altogether. Number 15. Crossover. The 70s was perhaps the greatest era for primetime television, as most of the biggest franchises of today began then. Lost in Space, Adam West's Batman, Star Trek, and the Brady Bunch were all around the same era and shot adjacent to each other, causing the actors of each show to often run into each other. During the casting for the Brady Bunch, Florence Henderson, who played Carol Brady on the show, ended up walking straight into the dressing room for the wrong show and ended up being seated between another two legends, William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy. Florence didn't realize that she had walked into the screen test for Star Trek till much later. Just imagine, there's a world where Florence may have been in the Star Trek show instead of the Brady Bunch. Number 14. Peanuts. The Brady Bunch is almost a completely original series and is not inspired by any previous adaptations or series, but it does make references to shows and other media that influenced and inspired the writers and creative directors of the show when they were younger. One such callback happens with the character Lucy, the girl who hosted the party where Jan wore that ridiculous black wig. Pamela Ferdin, who played the role of Lucy, was actually the voice for the character Lucy.
Hi, Lucy. Happy birthday.
Thank you. Margie, Peter's here.
From the Peanuts animated series. A clever little callback to her previous character. Number 13. Silent Battles. The Brady Bunch is a show known for being extremely lighthearted and for being one that anyone can pick up and watch at any time. The show portrayed a perfect family who comes together to solve the occasional mishap that happens to them. But things were far from perfect for the actors who played these roles. Robert Reed, who played the role of Mike Brady, the patriarch of the perfect family, was in the closet during the filming of the show and had to hide his sexuality from the world for fear of being persecuted. While Maureen McCormick, who played the confident and perfect daughter, actually suffered from anxiety attacks and depression due to the intense stress she felt. Truly a testament to the struggles actors go through behind the smiles. Number 12. Sparks. There were rumors on set that there were sparks flying between some of the members of the Brady family, but not between the ones you think. Many people believe that Greg and Carol Brady, played by Barry Williams and Florence Henderson, had a romantic relationship off-screen. This had become highly problematic for both actors, as Carol was supposed to be his mother on the show while he was a minor. But both actors remain resolute that while Barry had a massive crush on Carol and took her for dinner once, nothing beyond dinner had happened. Carol commented that the only reason she even accepted was because she thought it was cute and was oblivious to his interest towards her. Number 11. Cindy's Lisp. One of the most iconic dialogues of the show comes in the episode where Cindy is bullied by kids for her lisp. Although this line where the kids go, baby talk, it's a wonder you can walk,
Swan,
Baby talk, it's a wonder you can walk,
was unscripted, it ended up becoming quite famous. What most people don't realize is that this moment was actually inspired by Susan Olsen's own personal life, where she was bullied for having an authentic lisp. The series decided to draw on this experience and wrote an entire episode surrounding this trait of hers. It is one of the more heart-touching stories in the entire series as we see her brother Peter step in to defend her when she gets bullied. Susan probably found the closure she always needed through this one episode. Are you enjoying the video so far? Well, if you stuck around this long, make sure to stay till the end to hear the amazing bonus secret. Number 10. Statistics. While other shows are inspired by ideas, Schwartz was inspired by a statistic that appeared in the LA Times sewing that 31% of marriages have a child from a previous marriage. This statistic gave Schwartz the idea for a show, which eventually became what we know as the Brady Bunch today. Number 9. Greg's Experiments. Barry Williams experienced his teenage years during the peak time of hippie culture, and as such experimented with many substances. But this experimentation was deemed to have reached a problematic point when Greg stepped onto set to shoot a show aimed at anti-substance usage completely high. Greg reflected later on in a memoir that this may not have been the best set of choices he made at the time. Number 8. Nights Singing. Being a family-oriented show, The Brady Bunch was often written as a very musical show, with the cast often breaking out into song on various topics at various points in the episode, with songs based on different topics and different emotions. While every other cast member had a voice with which they could make a living, Christopher Knight, who played the role of Peter Brady, admitted that his singing was nowhere on par with his fellow cast members. Knight's inability to sing became the center of an episode where he was scripted to use his lack of musicality to add towards the others' voices and singing, albeit Knight found hitting the wrong notes also a task. Number 7. Censoring. Well, this fact is probably going to be the funniest of them all, but if you're an eagle-eyed viewer, you would have noticed this a very long time ago. When you finally notice it, it'll give you more questions than answers. Although Mike Brady claims to be an architect, there is a glaring mistake with the bathroom the 6 kids share, and it has to do with the fact that this bathroom has no toilet. But the reason behind this is even more hilarious. Apparently, back in the 70s, showing a toilet on screen was a big no-no by the censor board. Which is why, if you look at most TV shows from the 60s and 70s, you'll notice that most of them don't have a toilet. Talk about excessive censoring. Number 6. Mrs. Martin. Of course, it's no secret that the father of the Brady Bunch, Mike Brady, is actually a widower who ended up remarrying with Carol Brady, but Carol's premarital status has always been shrouded in mystery. Sherwood Schwartz had finally revealed years later that it was intended for Carol's character to be a divorcee, with her married name to be Martin. But of course, in true 70s style, this was cut out of the final production, as divorce was still a very taboo subject, and portraying that a divorcee woman could be happy again was a very controversial matter. The studio ended up dropping Carol's past and left it up to the viewer to decide. Number 5. Schwartz's strong arm. Well, if you feel Sherwood may have had some anger toward the cast for being difficult, this moment doesn't make it any easier for him to deny that claim. But jokes apart, Sherwood was known for having a strong throwing arm. In the episode The Subject Was Noses, Christopher Knight was supposed to throw a football into Marcia Brady's face, but was unable to. Because of Knight's inability to hit his sister with a football, Sherwood ended up stepping in off-screen to throw the ball for Knight. When the scene was finally shot, Schwartz ended up throwing a football that ended up landing smack dab in the middle of Marcia's face in the first take. Schwartz would have probably made a killing at the NFL. Number 4. Cult following. If you ask a person who was born in the 60s or 70s as to which shows they remember watching while growing up, they may say something like Batman or Star Trek. And while these were the true forerunners for the most popular shows at the time, shows like the Brady Bunch had a cult following. The show's fan base had actually expanded much more after it had ended, as distribution for the show got syndicated and was broadcast later into the afternoon, allowing more kids to watch it. This ended up garnering even more fans for the show, as many kids got exposed to the calm and relaxing vibes that the Brady Bunch had to offer. Number 3. Continuity errors. The Brady Bunch is truly an amazing show with great writing and direction, but it was written and shot in such a way that the producers of the show never thought that the show would still have any sort of attention some 40 years later. There are many times in the show that we can see several continuity errors pop up. Like, for example, sometimes the family can be seen leaving the house in one car and returning in another, the children's hairstyles changing between cuts, and even some of the actors looking straight at the camera and making faces at the end of the scene, mistaking the scene for a rehearsal shot. The cast and crew never thought that they would need to edit any of this out, but how wrong they were. Number 2. Fighting for rights. While Florence was very well paid on the show, there was one thing that did not sit right with her, and that was the fact that her character, Carol Brady, was relegated to the role of a housewife. Florence was someone who believed that women had to be represented in the workforce at a time when the women's rights movement was stronger than ever. She constantly fought with the writers and producers of the show to give her character the chance to move into the workforce, but was denied. Florence finally had to relent, as she was not given any creative control over the character. Truly a loss. Number 1. Reed hated the show. It's difficult for us to swallow the fact that some people hate their most iconic character, but sometimes it happens. Robert Reed actually had a great distaste for his role as Mike Brady and only agreed to the role because Schwartz had promised that the show would push the boundaries of a family drama. But Robert soon realized that this wasn't really the case and that the show would operate like any other. Sherwood tried to look for a way to replace Mike in the show and even planned to kill the character off at one point. But due to creative differences with the show's writers, that didn't take place. Reed would have quit, but the only reason Robert stayed on was out of dedication towards the kids. Bonus fact: backdoor pilot. We can see that during the 30-minute finale, Most of the episode has been graciously allowed for the neighbors of the Bradys, Kathy and Kelly, who introduce us to their 3 adopted children, Matt, Dwayne, and Steve. Schwartz had hoped his show would be picked up, but ended up being dropped for other shows. If you like this video, we think you will enjoy this one. Make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell as well. Make sure to leave a comment as well telling us which fact was your favorite.